One small red dot. That's the entire test. Researchers dab it on an animal's forehead while it's asleep, somewhere it can't feel it and can't see it without help, then wait to see what happens when the animal looks in a mirror. If the animal reaches up and touches the mark on its own head instead of the mirror, scientists count that as proof. This animal knows the reflection is it. You'd assume that's a solid test. Simple, clean, hard to fake. But only a small handful of species have ever passed it. Which means, according to this one test, almost every animal on Earth doesn't know it exists. Except there's a problem nobody likes to talk about. The test assumes every animal cares about its reflection in the first place. And some of the smartest animals we know completely ignore the mirror, not because they fail to recognize themselves, but maybe because they never needed to look. Here's the version of this test you've probably absorbed without questioning it. Pass the mirror test, and you're self-aware. Fail it, and you're not. Clean line, clean answer. It's an appealing idea, because it turns something as murky as does this creature have an inner sense of self into something you can actually observe and measure. A behavior, on camera, yes or no. For decades, that's exactly how it's been treated. A small list of species, mostly great apes, dolphins, elephants, magpies, passed. Everyone else by default gets filed under probably doesn't know it exists. You'd assume researchers built the perfect measuring stick and simply used it to sort the animal kingdom into two honest categories. But the more scientists actually studied why certain animals failed, the less convinced they became that the test was measuring what everyone assumed it was measuring. Here's where it gets specific. Dogs almost universally fail the mirror test. For years, that was read as evidence dogs lack self-awareness. But dogs experience the world primarily through smell, not sight. Their entire sense of identity and territory is built on scent, not visual reflection. When researchers designed a version of the test using scent instead of a mirror, letting dogs investigate altered versions of their own urine compared to unaltered samples, dogs showed behavior suggesting they could tell the difference between this scent is mine, but something's off, and an unfamiliar scent entirely. In other words, dogs may have been failing a vision-based test of self-recognition their entire species was never built to pass. Not because they lack the underlying awareness, but because the test spoke the wrong sensory language. Elephants present a different complication. Early mirror tests on elephants mostly failed, until researchers changed the size and placement of the mirror to accommodate an elephant's actual body and field of view. Once the setup fit the animal instead of forcing the animal to fit the setup, several elephants passed. And magpies, birds with no visual cortex structure, anything like a primate's, still passed a modified version of the mark test, suggesting self-recognition doesn't require the specific brain architecture researchers once assumed was necessary. Each of these cases points toward the same uncomfortable pattern. When the test failed to detect self-awareness, the more likely explanation often wasn't this animal doesn't have it. It was this test wasn't built to see it. So here's what that actually means. For decades, an entire ranking of which animals matter cognitively, which ones get protections, which ones get treated as more machine than mind, has been shaped in part by a test that may only reliably detect self-awareness in animals whose senses happen to resemble ours. Which means the test was never fully measuring consciousness. It was measuring consciousness as expressed through a channel humans understand easily, sight, while staying mostly blind to any animal, whose sense of self is built through smell, sound, vibration, or something we haven't even thought to test for yet. And if that's true, the honest answer to which animals know they exist was never really the ones on this short list. It was closer to the ones we happen to be equipped to notice. That's a very different, and much less comfortable, question than the one everyone thought they were answering. You came into this video assuming a mirror was a fair, neutral way to test for self-awareness. Most people do. It's simple. It's visual. It feels obviously objective. But the test was never neutral. It was built around a sense that happens to be the one humans trust the most, applied to animals who may be experiencing their own existence through senses we barely think to measure. Which raises a bigger question than does this animal recognize itself? It's, how many other things have we decided animals don't have, simply because we tested for it using the wrong sense? That's next.